So, welcome back to Diaries of a Dull Dad, and we are still dieting. So, I'll give you a little bit more of an update tomorrow. So, once I've checked in tomorrow, checked in and see where we're at. Obviously, I'll then have a little bit more direction and be able to see exactly what's going on. But at the moment, I think as I mentioned in last week's, the diet's going pretty well. It's not, we're not having to push crazy hard, and actually the body fat's coming off nicely, as you'll see in these pictures that I've popped up today. Another just under a pound down on average, but I did also see a new low. So we saw 162 pounds on the scales this week, which is a pretty decent drop. I've also seen up to 166. So, such is the nature of body weight. And it's why I always encourage my clients to think about things longer term, looking at weekly averages, looking at where we're at like for like weeks, and not necessarily getting overly focused on just that individual movement, because there's always going to be stuff that's going to change in there. And I know, that 166 came the day after it was a high day of food, so an extra high day of food this week, which meant that I've had 3 high days food wise. It was also Father's Day yesterday, so that weigh-ins come after I've had a fairly decent sort of, I wouldn't say blowout, but certainly eating a little bit more off plan. We went out for lunch, had a nice big platter of a very French platter of meat and cheese, which I'll pop a little picture up just so you can see exactly what goes on here. But there was way more cheese on there than I expected, to be completely honest. And it was just me eating it. So, it was easily the kind of platter that 2 people could share. But Lara had something different. And so I ended up demolishing the entire platter by myself. And like I say, definitely more cheese than I've had for a very, very long time. So my stomach didn't thank me too much for it, even if it did taste pretty good at the time. So as I say, physique pictures are there, another pound down on average. Everything again going really, really well, starting to feel better. Training's going really well at the moment too. The high days on those training days definitely helping with that side of things. Nice to see that the extra food is going to good use. Had some really, really good training sessions. Feeling like I am getting back into things again and finding that little bit of consistency again, which has definitely been lacking the last few weeks while we, been traveling, been settling back in, little niggles and injuries and sicknesses creeping up. But yeah, ready to very much push things forward now. So looking forward to that. I'm also going to just show you a little video shortly as part of this one with how I make one of the meals that I particularly enjoy at the moment, and it's overnight oats. Super simple, super tasty, really easy to batch up and make a good few portions of for the week if you want to. I have that as my first meal on each of my 4 training days. So actually I, very easily could make up all 4 portions in one go. Wouldn't take me any more than 10 minutes to do, and then they're all set and they're all ready for 4 breakfasts of the week. So enjoy watching how I make that. Any questions, do give us a shout. And then I'll be back again tomorrow with a little bit more of an update following my check-in and check-in reply, just to see exactly what direction we're going to take things. So this is how we make one of my favorite meals at the moment. It is overnight oats, and I like to keep food incredibly simple because I don't really have the time to mess about. So first thing that goes in here, 2 grams of salt. Now I try and get around about a couple of grams of salt in each meal. I eat 4 times a day, so 8 grams of salt a day. Little bit can go into my my intra workout drink as well. So usually looking at somewhere between 8 and 10 grams of salt, just to make sure that I'm well hydrated. So salt goes in. The next thing we use, protein powder. So my current flavor of choice, particularly for these overnight oats, because it's one of the few things that I actually use protein powder for, is vanilla, just because it's pretty inoffensive. Doesn't mean it, flavors too much. I'm aiming for 40 grams of protein in here. So for this particular isolate, I'm looking at around about 45 grams of protein. You can see that going in there. What we are then going to do is add in the oats. So currently this is 80 grams of oats that goes in here. So these are just normal rolled oats. 80 grams of those goes in. Now this is the key bit, this next bit. So what we do, we add some water, we give it a stir till it comes to a reasonably liquidy consistency. We don't want it to be too runny, but we want it to have some moisture in there. So just add a little bit more water in there. This next stage it's actually something that one of my clients taught me, because overnight oats was something I'd always wanted to try, but I'd never really bothered to give a go, thinking it was incredibly complicated. This next step, this is the key one, in the microwave. So in the microwave this goes for about a minute. So what this is going to do is just going to draw that moisture into the oats. It's going to fluff those up. It's going to add a really nice bit of volume to this. Once that's done, we'll get our frozen fruit. So I'm currently using cocktail de fruits rouges because I live in France. That is a cocktail of red fruits to anyone else. So once that is fluffed up in the microwave, once it's added that little bit of volume, I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll add in the fruit. And then the only other couple of ingredients that will go in after that, we've got some dark chocolate going in there, so about 20 grams, and cinnamon. Cinnamon is also a pretty key ingredient when it comes to the overnight oats protocol. So these are almost done now, ready to get a bit fluffed up. Here we go. They might need another little zap in there just to fluff them up a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just going to give them a little bit longer just to make sure that we've got those there. And then they'll be good to go. They'll be ready to add the other ingredients. So the other quite nice thing that does, obviously that's going to come out of there roasting hot. We can add in the frozen berries. The chocolate will start to melt a little bit, and it all goes real nice. So yeah. And the dark chocolate, by the way, 85% or more. Make sure it is decent quality chocolate. None of that milky rubbish. None of that half-assed stuff. 85% or more. So let me just show you the consistency of these oats now. So what you'll see in there, they're quite thick, and that is what we want them to be. We want them to be pretty thick. So then once that's in, 100 grams of frozen berries goes in. Superb. And give that a little bit of a stir just to let them melt a little bit in there. And then the dark chocolate. So the dark chocolate, as I say, 85% dark chocolate. I'm just going to cut this up into little cubes. And then we'll pop that in. That will all melt down nicely. Add our cinnamon on the top. And then that can go into the fridge. Here we go. So dark chocolate going in. There it is. Give that another stir. Looks terrible, tastes delicious, which is pretty much the way that I do food. I am absolutely hopeless at making food look pretty, but I can certainly make food look tasty. So there you have the finished product. Overnight oats a la Ben. So, check-in sent, feedback received. The plan is this week's going to be very much a normal week. So back to what we were, no high days, just as planned. So roughly 2,000 calories on my training days, about 1,800 on my rest days. Standard week, 4 times 30 minutes of cardio, 4 training sessions, steps 8 to 10,000 a day, and we'll see where we're at come next week, but slightly longer term. So I mentioned obviously holiday coming up in about 10 weeks time. So I think what we'll do for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks is just continue to push a little bit more fat loss. Things are going well, as I mentioned. I've not had to push too hard just yet, and I'm liking being a lot leaner. So push that fat loss for another 2, 3, or 4 weeks, and then that'll give us 5, 6 weeks to just gradually bring calories back up again, so that going away on holiday, calories are in a higher place. So I'm not going away on holiday having absolutely pushed myself into the ground, calories really low, cardio really high, and then all of a sudden we're on holiday and I'm just a little bit lost. Which is something I quite like to do with my clients as well. Just I don't like people to go away, like the day after their calories have been pushed as low as possible, because you're not really ready. Like mentally, you're not in the right place. You go away, you end up just the buffet's there, you binge on everything. Before you know it, you've come back off that holiday 10 pounds heavier, and we're having to go straight back into fat loss. I'd far rather get ready a couple of weeks early, gradually build things up so that we're almost back at like a maintenance level of calories, go away on holiday knowing that we can eat a little bit more, try and keep the gain to a minimum. There might be a little bit, but a pound or two here or there isn't too bad. And then we can come back and then continue to grow. So that is the plan at the moment. Obviously, we'll see how things go over the coming weeks, but yeah, expect to see me get a little bit leaner. I don't think there's masses to come off now. I feel good. I feel pretty lean. So realistically, potentially looking at another 3 to 5 pounds maybe in the space of the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I think that's going to put me in a really, really good spot, as I say, and then turn that round, grow a little bit, probably, aim to keep the gain to a relative minimum before we go on holiday, but back in a spot where food is higher, energy is much better, feeling good, and ready to relax a little bit while away. So that is the update for this week. Any questions, as ever, please do fire them over. ben@benhowardfitness.com is the email address, or any of my socials @benhowardfitness. You can find me there, and they're all linked below too. So do let me know of any questions, and I will be back next week with another update.